What if I told you that you can see through any person, recognize their true nature and hidden intentions with just two simple observations? No psychological games or guesswork, just pure psychological truth. Most people wear masks, showing only what they want us to see, but behind every smile, handshake, and kind word are subtle clues revealing their true essence. This is supported by numerous studies in the field of social psychology, which show that a person can unconsciously reveal their true intentions through microexpressions and uncontrollable behavioral patterns. The first thing to pay attention to is how a person treats those who can offer him nothing in return. Want to know a person's true nature? Watch how they treat people who can't offer them anything in return. Waiters, cleaners, cashiers, or even strangers on the street. A person who is only kind to those who are useful to him is not truly kind. He just thinks strategically. An interesting example from history. Winston Churchill was known for treating both the royal family and the gardeners of his estate with equal respect. When asked about this, he replied, "I always measure a man by how he treats those who are of no use to him." Princess Diana also demonstrated a similar attitude, often interacting with palace staff as equals and even advocating for their interests within the royal family. Psychologists call this the waiter rule. It is based on the idea that a person's true nature is revealed in interactions with those they do not feel the need to impress. Research shows that people with high emotional intelligence and strong moral character treat everyone with respect, regardless of their status. There are several clear signs to watch out for. Lack of gratitude towards service personnel, changing behavior depending on the observers, an excessive reaction to other people's mistakes, using others' helplessness for personal gain. Psychological studies at Stanford University have shown that people who show respect to service personnel generally demonstrate higher levels of empathy and emotional intelligence overall. A telling example from the business world. Steve Jobs, despite his genius, was known for his sharp remarks towards lower-level employees. This is often seen as one of his main personal weaknesses, showing that even the most successful people can exhibit such negative character traits. In contrast, Mark Zuckerberg in the early years of Facebook personally knew the names of all the office cleaners and greeted each of them. There is also a well-known story of how Bill Gates in his youth would purposely take potential partners to restaurants to assess their attitude towards the staff. Richard Branson, founder of the Virgin Group, is known for always carrying a notepad to write down ideas and suggestions from any employee, regardless of their position. Carl Jung's work on the shadow suggests that such behavior stems from deeply rooted complexes and a need for dominance. His research shows that people who only respect those they fear or admire often hide a darker side of their personality. The Dalai Lama often says that true kindness is shown in how we treat complete strangers. Modern research in neuropsychology confirms Jung's theory, showing that condescending behavior toward subordinates is often associated with impairments in the prefrontal cortex of the brain, responsible for empathy and social behavior. The second important observation concerns how a person behaves when given power. The real test of character occurs not when everything is easy, but when a person gains control. History is replete with examples. Nelson Mandela, upon gaining power after 27 years of imprisonment, used it to reconcile and unite the nation rather than seek revenge. At the same time, history is full of examples where power brought out the worst in people. It is important to remember that power does not change people. It reveals their true essence. Psychologist Philip Zimbardo vividly demonstrated in his famous Stanford prison experiment how power can reveal hidden sides of personality. Another striking example is Mahatma Gandhi, who, despite having immense influence, continued to live modestly and serve others, showing that true greatness is demonstrated in how a person uses their power to help others. If you truly want to see a person's true character, observe how they behave when given power. This can be power over resources, influence over others, or simply control in a specific situation. Power reveals the real person hidden beneath the surface because it removes the constraints of fear and consequences. Power eliminates the need to pretend. People no longer need to make impressions, plead, or play the role of a good person. They show who they really are. A classic example of this is the story of Robert Mugabe, who started as a freedom fighter in Zimbabwe, but ended up as one of the most ruthless dictators in Africa. Psychologists have long studied the impact of power on human behavior. One of the most famous studies, conducted by psychologist Dr. Keltner, revealed something shocking. When people gain power, they often become less empathetic, more impulsive, and more prone to violating ethical rules. This is what he calls the power paradox. The idea that people often rise to power due to positive qualities such as kindness and empathy, but once they gain power, they often lose these qualities. This phenomenon was vividly illustrated in the case of Mark Zuckerberg, who started as an idealistic creator of a social network for students, but gradually turned into a leader, making controversial decisions about user data privacy. Why does this happen? When a person feels powerful, their brain chemistry literally changes. Brain imaging studies show that people in power exhibit less activity in the mirror neuron system, the part of the brain responsible for empathy. This means they care less about others. They start to see people as means to an end, rather than fellow human beings. Modern neurobiological studies conducted at Stanford University confirm these findings, demonstrating significant changes in prefrontal cortex activity in people in leadership positions for over 5 years. Let's look at some examples of how power reveals character. An example from the workplace. Imagine a colleague who is friendly and supportive of you when they are at the same level as you. But as soon as they are promoted, everything changes. Suddenly, they stop acknowledging you in the hallway, start micromanaging your work, and dismiss your ideas in meetings. This is not a coincidence. It is a shift in power dynamics revealing their true nature. Why? Because power has given them a new sense of control, and they have decided to use it unfairly. It's not the promotion that changed them. The mask just slipped when they gained authority. For example, there's a case of a Google manager who completely changed his management style after being promoted, going from a supportive colleague to a strict leader. On the other hand, a person with true character will treat their subordinates with the same respect as before. Instead of micromanaging, they will support and develop their team. Instead of control, they will delegate authority. A vivid example of this approach is demonstrated by Satya Nadella, CEO of Microsoft, who is known for maintaining his humble and caring leadership style even after reaching the highest position in the company. Power exists not only in business or leadership, it also exists in personal relationships. Think about relationships, whether romantic, family, or friendships. A good person, when given emotional, financial, or social advantage, will still treat you with respect and fairness. For example, the story of Warren Buffett, who, despite becoming one of the richest people in the world, continues to live in the same house and maintain the same friendships as decades ago. But a person with a weak moral character will exploit your vulnerabilities. Have you noticed how some people change when they realize you depend on them? A friend who was once kind starts belittling you when they feel superior. A romantic partner who once cherished you suddenly becomes controlling once they know you love them. This happens because the power imbalance changes behavior. If someone is only kind to you when they need you, but becomes cold once in control, that is a serious warning sign. A person who is humble and down-to-earth suddenly starts treating others as inferior after gaining fame, money, or recognition. Carl Jung claimed that power strips away the persona, the mask we wear in society. When we no longer seek approval, our true selves are revealed. If this self is cruel, manipulative, or selfish, it has always been there. Power simply removed the filter. A historical example of power and corruption. History is full of people who started as heroes and ended up as tyrants. Many dictators began as revolutionaries fighting against injustice and inequality, but became even worse than the system they overthrew, proving that their desire for power was never about helping others. It was about dominating them. Kings and rulers, once promising freedom, turned despotic once they gained full control. As Abraham Lincoln said, almost anyone can bear adversity, but if you want to test a person's character, give them power. This is why Carl Jung emphasized that understanding the shadow, the hidden part of our personality, requires attention to how a person behaves, when they can do whatever they want, because that's when their true self is revealed. This is confirmed by the research of modern psychologists, particularly the works of Philip Zimbardo and his famous Stanford prison experiment. Jung claimed that people never change. These traits have always been inside them. Power simply removed the need to hide them. Power can corrupt, but not everyone. What determines the difference? Firstly, self-awareness. People who understand their own weaknesses are less susceptible to their influence. A person who has explored their shadow, as Jung called it, will be able to resist the temptations of power. A shining example is Nelson Mandela, who, even after decades of imprisonment and gaining power, retained his humanistic principles. Secondly, strong values. If a person is guided by virtue, morality, and justice, power will not change them. They see it as a responsibility, not a tool for domination. Thirdly, accountability. The most dangerous people in power are those no one can oppose. What does your power say about you? It's easy to judge others, but here's a more difficult question. How do you behave when you have power? Do you treat people differently when you have advantages? Do you show kindness only when it benefits you? Would you still be the same person if no one was watching you? How you answer these questions will determine your true character. If you're already dealing with a toxic person, the first step is to acknowledge reality. Stop making excuses. After that, here's how to protect yourself. Firstly, create emotional distance. If complete separation is not possible, start by reducing emotional closeness. Limit what you share, especially your weaknesses or problems. They can use this against you later. Psychologists note that emotional distance is a key factor in maintaining mental health when dealing with toxic people. Secondly, check their character in advance. Before trusting someone, observe how they treat others when they think no one is watching. Thirdly, set clear boundaries. Such people will test your limits. They will evoke guilt, manipulate, or make you doubt reality for their benefit. Don't give in. If they cross your boundaries, reinforce them. Research shows that people with clear personal boundaries are less prone to manipulation and emotional abuse. For example, if they make rude remarks, say, "I don't engage in conversations that belittle me." If they try to evoke guilt, respond, "I understand you're upset, but my decision stands." Fourthly, don't try to fix them. Many spend years hoping someone will change. Harsh truth. If they want to change, they would have done so already. Instead of waiting for them to get better, invest time in people who already treat you well. Fifthly, maintain control over your life. Such people often try to make you dependent on them. Maintain control emotionally, financially, and mentally. Have a support system outside their influence. If it's a boss or a family member, start planning ways to reduce their influence on your decisions. Research in psychology shows that financial independence and a broad social network are key factors in overcoming toxic relationships. Sixthly, observe how they handle conflicts. When things don't go their way, they lose control, manipulate guilt, or seek revenge. This is a sign of a toxic personality. Seventhly, trust the signs, not the excuses. Jung believed that we often ignore the truth because it's uncomfortable, but the longer we ignore it, the deeper their influence on us. If they act arrogantly, belittle others, or suddenly become condescending after gaining an advantage, take it as a warning. Now that you understand how to truly see a person's character, the question is, what will you do with this knowledge? Will you pay more attention to how people treat those who can't offer them anything in return? Will you notice how they behave when given power? Because once you see these patterns, you can't unsee them. This awareness gives you an incredible advantage. It protects you from deception, helps build stronger relationships, and, most importantly, allows you to surround yourself with people of integrity. But it also challenges you, because if you want to recognize true character in others, you must be willing to reflect on your own. How do you treat those below you? How do you behave when given power? True growth begins with self-awareness. So ask yourself, if someone were watching you through the same lens, what would they see?